Welcome to the Theology Made podcast. I'm Jordan. In today's episode, we're going to look at the monk who invented modern music. It's the early 11th century, somewhere in northern Italy, inside a modest monastic chapel. A group of monks are preparing for their daily chant. The air is cold, you can hear the candles flicker, and voices murmur as they gather their books, if you want to call them that. Most are little more than memory aids, and among them stands a monk named Guido Arezzo. We don't have a record of a dramatic unveiling, but we do know Guido introduced a new visual way of representing music to the communities he taught. And what he showed his fellow monks was a system that became the foundation of nearly all Western music that followed. Pop, classical, sacred, secular. The roots reach back to a monk who simply wanted his students to sing better. To understand Guido's world, you have to picture a time when music lived mostly in the memory of the community. Before the 11th century, chant was transmitted orally. Written symbols existed, but they showed melodic shape, not pitch. And there wasn't a standardized way to indicate rhythm, intervals, or the exact notes. So learning chant essentially was just endless repetition. And monks spent an enormous amount of time, sometimes years, simply memorizing the liturgy. Guido himself wrote notes in his treatise, the Micrologos. Guido himself notes in his treatise that singers frequently made mistakes because they had no reliable visual guide for pitch. So chants could drift from place to place, and then, of course, local variations multiplied. And it wasn't chaos. Monks took great care. This mattered, but it was imprecise. And Guido, as a teacher, he decided, you know what? We need a system based. And Guido, as a teacher, looked at this and thought a system based only on memory would always be vulnerable. Now, Guido's writings don't give us emotional outbursts or like dramatic scenes, but he repeatedly expresses frustration with how slowly students learned under the traditional method. There is one line that stands out. He wanted a system that allowed a singer to learn a chant without the aid of a teacher. And it wasn't arrogance, it was just good pedagogy. He believed music should be teachable, it should be repeatable, it should be stable, something that didn't depend on one's master's memory. And it's not that he was trying to innovate, he just wanted to solve a practical problem. How do you help ordinary monks learn chants accurately, efficiently, and confidently? And that question drove everything that followed. Sometime in the early 11th century, Guido introduced a visual breakthrough, a set of horizontal lines indicating precise pitch. Earlier musical marks, they floated above text, showing the general contour of a melody but not exact intervals. Guido added a 4-line staff with clef markers that anchored pitches to specific positions. And this was nothing short of revolutionary, because for the first time, a note's position defined its pitch, intervals became visible, melodies could be accurately preserved over distance and time. Students no longer relied solely on memory or imagination, they could see the architecture of a melody. Guido reports that with this system, novices learn chants more quickly and with fewer errors than ever before. To complement the staff, Guido introduced another teaching tool that became legendary, the Guidonian hand. The earliest references to the hand appear slightly after Guido's lifetime, but scholars widely believe he originated the basic concept. Each segment of a teacher's left hand, fingertips, knuckles, joints, corresponded to a specific pitch in each segment of a student's left hand. Each segment of a teacher's left hand, fingertips, knuckles, joints, corresponded to a specific pitch in the hexachord system. A teacher could place to a place on the hand, and a student would know what note to sing. It was sort of an embodied mnemonic device, a portable visual aid, if you will. It was a mnemonic device, a portable visual aid that the student could see. And whether Guido's exact hand survived unchanged, or whether... And this was simply a mnemonic device. And it was simply a mnemonic device, a portable visual aid. And whether Guido's exact hand survived unchanged or was refined in the decades after him, the idea is unmistakably his that music could be taught systematically and not just through memorization. Guido's most famous innovation, it came from a hymn to St. John the Baptist. Each line of the hymn began on a successively higher pitch, and he borrowed the opening syllables of each line. Re, mi, fa, sol, la. These syllables, they trained singers. Guido's most famous innovation, it came from a hymn to St. John the Baptist. Each line of the hymn began on a successively higher pitch. Let me know if this sounds familiar. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Recognize it? These symbols, they train singers to internalize intervals, the distance between notes, not just the notes themselves. And over time, this was refined, eventually evolved into our modern do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But the continuity is clear. The method is Guido's invention, even if the exact syllables changed over time. And what Guido introduced was not just notation, it was a new way of thinking about melody. Once Guido's tools spread through Europe, the musical landscape began to shift. Now, we can't credit Guido with every later development, but it's historically fair to say his system made possible consistent chant across regions, the rise of polyphone, complex composition, the preservation of music over centuries. The preservation of music over centuries. Without a notational standard, Western music could not have grown into the structured, layered, harmonic art form that later emerged. Guido didn't plan that, he just wanted monks to sing correctly. But the unintended consequences were enormous. And though Guido rarely theologized explicitly, his work grew out of a deeply Christian worldview. To him, music was an integral part of worship. Clarity in singing honored God, beauty reflected divine order, disciplined learning cultivated virtue. He believed that liturgy deserved precision and excellence. And his innovations weren't technology for their own sake, they were used as an act of devotion, gifts offered to the church so the church could offer its best to God. And that's why monks preserved and expanded his work. They recognized it as a tool that served the heart of Christian worship. So next time a melody stirs your heart or a choir's harmony moves a room or a film score intensifies a scene, remember, much of the musical world we know rests on the insights of a monk who lived nearly 1,000 years ago. A teacher who believed that beauty deserved clarity, worship deserved precision. Guido didn't set out to change Western civilization, he set out to help monks sing. And somehow, he did both. Hey, if you enjoyed uncovering the real history behind the world we take for granted, you'll love my Theology Made Simple course. It's designed to help you understand complex ideas with clarity, just like Guido did with music. The link is in the show notes.